Today's episode is sponsored by the NBA and their quest to advance the game of basketball, grow the community, and impact culture. The league celebrates its teams, players, and fans across the past, present, and future as part of its 75th anniversary season. That's Game highlights pivotal moments on court and beyond, from iconic plays and arenas to the impact players have in the community. That's the NBA. That's Game. Like in the NBA Finals when the Bucks had their backs against the wall. Jrue Holiday steals the ball, pushes the break, alley-oop to Giannis for an iconic slam, seals Game 5 and the eventual title. That's the NBA. That's Game. This is more than just basketball. It's what connects us all and keeps us coming back for more. That's the NBA. That's Game.
This podcast is brought to you by DirecTV Stream. Get your TV together with the best of live and on demand. Learn more at directtv.com. For the Athletic Podcast Network, this is The Update. I'm Adam Copeland. On today's show, we'll talk to Sheil Kapadia, who covers the NFL for The Athletic, about the start of the 2021 NFL season tomorrow night. Buccaneers and Cowboys kick off the season on Thursday Night Football and then into a full slate of games this weekend. The 49ers, of course, opening up in Detroit on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. against the Lions. The Raiders will have to wait until Monday night. They'll wrap up Week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. We can kick around the top stories as well as the top rookie storylines across the NFL as the season gets going this week. We'll talk about all of that with Sheil Kapadia, who joins me next. Today is Wednesday, September 8th. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the podcast Sheil Kapadia. He, of course, covers the NFL for The Athletic. Sheil, good to have you back on, man. We talked to you last season before the pandemic season. Here we are again, still a pandemic season, but it looks like we've got a little more, hopefully a little more focus towards the end of the season this year and less confusion at the start of it. How are you, man? Good to have you.
Doing well, yeah. Thanks for having me. Week 1 is here. We don't know exactly how it's going to go, but college football started. The NFL is starting, so hopefully it'll be a fun start and a fun season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let me ask you this as sort of a COVID thought to the outlook of this season. And I was thinking about this the other day. I know in baseball we've seen this. I don't want to call it manipulation. We could say more gamesmanship because of how they have the COVID-19 injured list for baseball. But with football, the second year now of the expanded practice squad, do you think we'll see a little bit more maneuvering or gamesmanship as far as veteran status on the practice squad goes this year with the 16 players?
I don't think it'll be that different than last year. Now, it could vary from team to team. You know, you have some teams, for example, the Indianapolis Colts, a lot of their star players are not vaccinated, and so they're more at risk for missing time just based on the league's protocol. So a team like that, maybe you're right. Maybe they will need to say, hey, we need to have guys ready in case we all of a sudden lose 3 of our best players the Thursday before a game and they can't play. We need to be ready. There are other teams, like I think the Bucs, the Falcons, those teams are 100% vaccinated. So, even if they do test positive, those guys can return with 2 negative tests separated by a 24-hour period. So they're at less risk of losing their players. So I think it'll just vary team to team, but I don't think it'll be all that different from last year.
Yeah, I think it'll certainly, be a factor this season like it was last year. I just think we hope that we don't end up with, wide receivers at quarterback like we saw with the Broncos last season. And obviously there have been different rules and protocols put in place for this season. But let's talk about the football. This offseason, the NFL was the first league to say, we're going about our draft as planned. They did it virtually last year, and then this year they get going. And we had 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. Is there one of these 5 QBs that was taken in the first round as part of this sort of youth movement at quarterback in the NFL? Is there one guy that you have big expectations for this year, maybe ranking them 1 through 5? Who do you see as the guy who maybe makes the biggest impact on his team, down to the guy who maybe doesn't get on the field quite as much or have as big of an impact?
Well, I think Trey Lance is the guy with the highest ceiling. I know that probably sounds, it might surprise people that he's my pick, given that he might be a guy who's not even starting to start the season, might not even start for a while this season. But I just look at it, and you look at Jimmy Garoppolo's injury history, and you don't want anybody to get injured, but if you just base it on the past 3 years, there's a pretty good chance that Trey Lance is going to have to play at some point. And I think what they gave up to get him and the supporting cast. Most of the time these first round quarterbacks, they go into bad situations where, teams that were not good at all the previous year. Well, this is different because the 49ers had to trade up. They've got the play caller and Kyle Shanahan. They've got George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. They've got a supporting cast where if he goes in there and they've got plans to make him a real dual threat kind of guy, their run game could be special and he could be really fun to watch. So I'd probably put him at the top of the list. The other sort of end of the spectrum there, you really could name a number of guys. Zach Wilson, I think he's going to be up and down and be fun to watch, but I don't think expectations are high for that team. I would say the same thing for Trevor Lawrence there. Matt Jones, I feel like, is getting hyped up a little bit too much. The Patriots had a very splashy offseason, but I don't know that that's going to be a great offense right away with him. And then Justin Fields is probably the wild card in this whole thing because, I don't have a lot of confidence in that coaching staff that they're going to know what to do with him right away. The offensive line could be a mess. At the same time, you talk about a franchise that's just starving for a quarterback to give them some juice. And that's the one there in Chicago. So even if he's just coming in and making a couple plays and winning a couple games, that city is going to be so pumped up to have him. So that's kind of how I see the rookies.
Yeah, he was a great college talent, Justin Fields, and had a couple of huge plays just like Trey Lance did in the preseason. But you're right. I think a lot of people look there and they're like, man, can the Chicago Bears ever figure it out with a quarterback? Two of the guys you just mentioned as far as rookies go, Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, they'll be facing each other in the AFC East. I was looking at the last couple of years of quarterbacks just across the board about which quarterbacks were starting in each division. And you go back a few years and you had Ryan Fitzpatrick and Tom Brady both in the AFC East, two of the oldest guys in football. And now you look at it this year, it's Zach Wilson, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, and Josh Allen at 25 years old is the oldest quarterback in that group. How crazy is this movement towards young quarterbacks in the NFL? It just feels more to me now like it's happening each and every year. Seems like every team has got their new hot young quarterback more than it used to be where you had veterans across the league. It just seems like the youth movement is a real thing right now. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's a really cool blend, I think, right now. You still have the guy who won the Super Bowl last year who's like, Tom Brady, who's doing it at an age that literally no quarterback at that age has started more than 6 games in a season in NFL history. And we're talking about him as somebody who could potentially be looking to repeat as the Super Bowl champ. So you've of course got, with Aaron Rodgers up there. He's going to be competing for a Super Bowl. So you've got the old guard, these guys who've had Hall of Fame careers who are still doing it, who are still probably going to be playing, certainly in the second round of the playoffs. And then you've just got the young guys, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, all these rookies, the guys you just mentioned. And, I think what Josh Allen did last year really made some of these teams really, not just teams, guys like you and me who talk about this stuff, fans, whatever, think about it differently because that was really unprecedented for a guy like Josh Allen in his third season to make the leap the way he made the leap there in Buffalo, and all of a sudden his completion percentage is jumping 10 points. I mean, literally that is something we have not seen in the history of the NFL. So now I think if you're some of these other fan bases and your young quarterback hasn't done it yet, you're saying, well, wait a minute, not all hope is lost. Maybe they can figure it out with these guys. So it's going to be fun to, we know some of these young guys are going to emerge and be spectacular this year. It's just a matter of, who that's going to be.
No, it's a great point you make about quarterbacks getting better on the fly. You think about a player like Josh Rosen, who was the number 10 pick and has played for like 5 different organizations now in just the last few years. It's tough to make that improvement on the jump, and we'll see if Sam Darnold can do that now as he goes down to Carolina. I had sort of written down a couple of teams that I looked at, like the Panthers. I look at the Broncos as one of these teams. The Steelers are even one for me, kind of teams where I don't really know where they end up. In your projections, you had the Steelers, and you said they were some bold, some not so bold predictions for each team in the NFL. You had the Steelers, I believe, is a team that you said maybe they go under 500 for the first time under Mike Tomlin. What's so funny about that is last year, I think they were 11-0 at one point, and really nobody bought into the Steelers. What do you make of them this season?
Yeah, I hate going against Mike Tomlin. It makes me uncomfortable just hearing you read that out loud. But yeah, the guy's never had a losing record as a head coach. That's incredible. I think it's 14 seasons. 2 years ago, he's trotting out Mason Rudolph and a guy named Duck Hodges, and they still find a way to go 8-8. So, I might be looking stupid and have egg on my face at the end of the season with this prediction. But I just look at the way they ended last year. They lose 5 of their last 6 games, and then I look at what they did this offseason, and I don't think they fixed those issues that really, kind of plagued them down the stretch there. The offensive line, they've got some different bodies, but, it's totally up in the air whether that's going to be an upgrade. And that was one of the worst run-blocking offensive lines in the entire NFL. They use a first-round pick on Najee Harris, a running back who is a good player, but I just don't know if it's going to matter with that supporting cast. They make an offensive coordinator change, but again, I don't know that, that doesn't speak to me that this is a proven guy in Matt Canada who's going to mesh with Ben Roethlisberger, and they're going to be really creative offensively. And then Roethlisberger, we just talked about Brady, and he sort of spoiled us into thinking, no big deal when a guy is in, nearing 40, he can still play. Well, Brady is the exception. I mean, Roethlisberger, 39 years old, a year removed from a serious elbow surgery, and now you're saying, all right, are they going to be able to be as good as they were last year? And then on the defensive side of the ball, they've got questions at the cornerback position there. They lost a few key starters from last year. So I don't think they're going to be terrible. I don't think they're going to fall off a cliff. I think they're going to be around a 500 team. I've got them under 500 at 7-10.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. It's September, which means football season is back. And for many of us, there's no better way to celebrate and enjoy the games than by having some skin in the game, which is why BetMGM remains the exclusive betting partner of The Athletic. And as a fan of The Athletic, you can bet $10 to win $50, plus get a free 3-month subscription or extension to your subscription with The Athletic when you bet with BetMGM using our promo code. Just sign up at BetMGM.com and use the promo code TheAthleticPod at checkout to take advantage of this special offer from the king of sportsbooks. That's bet $10 to win $50 plus a 3-month free subscription to The Athletic at BetMGM.com and use the promo code TheAthleticPod at checkout. New customer offer. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Cue the disclaimer.
21 years of age or older to wager. Arizona, Colorado, Washington, D.C., Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia only. Excludes Michigan disassociated persons. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, Washington, D.C., Nevada, Wyoming, and Virginia, 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help in Michigan, 1-800-GAMBLER in Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Call or text the Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789 in Tennessee or call 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana.
Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part? There's no annual contract. Yes, no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
What about the other team out there, the team you're close to, the Philadelphia Eagles, man? Jalen Hurts, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, an opportunity for him maybe to get things going in his career. I don't know that we look at him as quite a Lamar Jackson type player, but I do think the hope there is that he can be a true dual threat guy. What's the outlook on the Philadelphia Eagles for 2021?
Yeah, I think the Eagles' entire offseason was based on setting themselves up for next offseason. They had this quarterback in Carson Wentz who didn't want to be here, and they were thinking about going in a different direction after they just signed him to a monster contract. They trade him to the Colts, pick up some draft capital. They trade down in the draft to pick up an extra first-round pick from the Dolphins for next year. So they're loaded with draft ammo next offseason. Now that could mean moving up in the draft to take a quarterback. That could mean trading those picks for a veteran. If they have a season this year where it looks like some of these young players come on, but Jalen Hurts isn't great, and they say, we can actually compete right away here in 2022. Let's trade some of these picks for whichever veteran quarterback is on the market. They could go in that direction as well. And then with Hurts, I think they're basically saying, surprise us. I don't get a sense that they're going into this thinking, hey, Jalen Hurts is going to be fantastic. Let's build the entire operation around him. Like you mentioned, the Ravens, that's what they did around Lamar Jackson. They said, we're building this whole thing around Lamar Jackson, and we're going to make it work. That's not the Eagles' approach. They're saying, all right, we're going to give Jalen Hurts a shot. You know what? If he surprises us and plays well, that's a great outcome. We've got all these picks to surround him with talent next season. But if that's not the case, then we might be moving in a different direction next year. So I really think they're wait-and-see mode with the quarterback.
We could be talking about more rookie quarterbacks when we do this hit next offseason too, right? And talking about the Eagles, just depending on how things go. One more for you here on the way out. I'm out here in the Bay Area, so we always got to get a 49er thought in here, but I want to go more big picture here on the NFC West. The Rams, I think, are always a threat with Sean McVay. They get their new quarterback in Matt Stafford. They had an elite defense last year, the best in the league, I believe. The Cardinals are a team, it's sort of funny. They added a bunch of players who were superstars in like 2016, 17, 18. We're just going to see if they can make the impact on the field this year. The Cardinals, an interesting one. Obviously, Seattle's always in the mix, and the 49ers hoping to bounce back after an injury-plagued season last year. How do you look at the NFC West? Is it the best division in football? Are there 3 teams you think that could come out of there this year for playoff berths? How do you look at the NFC West relative to the rest of that conference?
Without question, the best division in football, and you took the words out of my mouth in my predictions. I've got 3 of them making the playoffs. I've got the Rams and the Seahawks and the 49ers all making the playoffs. I've got the Cardinals, I can't remember, 8 or 9 wins. So I think they're still, a solid, mediocre team, but not quite in the class of the other teams. And really, any one of those 3 teams that I mentioned could certainly win the division. I picked the Rams. I just feel like, Sean McVay with Jared Goff, they had a top 10 offense. If you just look at the efficiency numbers, 3 out of 4 years with Jared Goff. And, I look at it on paper, and Stafford, maybe he's been a little overrated at times in his career, but I still think he's young enough where you pair his talent with what Sean McVay does as a schemer, and I just think it's going to work out well for them, and they're going to have a really nice season. The 49ers are such an interesting team to me, with Garoppolo. If you look at the numbers, when Garoppolo's been on the field, they've been fantastic, and it hasn't been like, the defense has been good, but the defense hasn't always had to carry them. They've had like a top 5 offense in terms of some of the advanced stats when Garoppolo stayed healthy. Health has just been the question, and they've been crushed when he's been off the field. So now they've sort of fixed that solution. If he's healthy, that's a great outcome. If he's banged up, you know what? You have a plan B that could be pretty exciting. So I think they're going to be fun to watch. And I think people are sleeping on the Seahawks a little bit. This was a very good team last year. They weren't as good down the stretch in the second half of the season, but I still think they've got a very good roster. They've never finished, below 500 during the Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll era. I think they've had a winning record every single season with them. I think they've only missed the playoffs once since Russell Wilson has been there. And I think they've got the easiest schedule in the NFL. If you just look at sort of the Vegas win totals and what the projections are, the Seahawks, outside of their NFC West schedule, it's not a very difficult slate. So I think they're going to be right there as well with double-digit wins. So yeah, I've got 3 of those teams making the playoffs, and I think all those interdivisional games are going to be fantastic and fun to watch.
Sheil, always fun having you on. It's great to do the whip around conversation. I'm getting excited for this, man. I know we're days away at this point. Everybody opens up this weekend, and of course Thursday night, Bucks and boys. We'll try to catch up with you again. Maybe once the playoff teams are set and all 3 seeds out of the NFC West, we know exactly where they're going. We'll have you on to discuss that again, man. Thanks a lot, Sheil.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff from Sheil. Always fun doing the whip around coverage with him. Loving getting his expertise, his opinions, and his thought process. And when you make bold predictions and not so bold predictions, you can wrap up at the end of the season and see just how right you were, just how wrong you were. I will say this. We didn't talk to him about his Super Bowl champion, but he does have, get this, the Kansas City Chiefs going to a 3rd straight Super Bowl, this time winning it. Can you imagine 2 Super Bowls in 3 years? And I'd imagine that if he's going back, it could be up against Tom Brady yet again. Thank you to Sheil. Thank you to Brian. Thank you to you, the listener. If you're enjoying the podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe to us wherever it is you're listening. We'll keep bringing you the best stories in Bay Area sports, and that means on Friday we'll start talking about the 49ers and the Detroit Lions again. They kick off Sunday morning, 10 a.m., and then on Monday we'll talk a little Las Vegas Raider football to get you ready for Monday Night Football. Great storylines ahead. The Giants could be headed to the postseason. The 49ers and Raiders will be playing football, and we're not too far away from the start of the NBA season. Until then, enjoy the week. We'll talk to you Friday.
Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. Yes, no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.